Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 6 o'clock, and I know a lot of you have other things to do, so I want to be respectful of your time. Ironically, many of you are people that already know me, so this little four-part of my conversation with you, you'll be familiar with. Um, Welcome to the September Leader Chat. This is the second in our year series of Leader Chat, brand new. My name is Patty Gazelle. I am the member specialist located in the Bloomington office. I currently support Service Unit 7, 8, 9, and 88. I've had a couple other areas that I've supported in the past. I've been with the council for a little over 4 years now, but prior to working with Girl Scouts, I was too a Girl Scout leader for Troop 1392. My mom was my troop leader when I was little, so I was also a Girl Scout, and I had the honor of being my daughter's troop leader. The picture on this first screen is my daughter Anderson and I when she was a junior Girl Scout, and that was almost 10 years ago. So while she's aged out of Girl Scouts right now because she is in college, she hasn't left Girl Scouts either. She's now a Girl Scout counselor at our Camp Kiwanis, and some of your daughters who may have gone there might know her as Guppy. And then when I was there, even though I have my own camp name, I was Mama Guppy. So that's probably enough about me. Let's go ahead and get started. This month we're going to talk about girl-led Girl Scout troops, how to do them with success, and the presentation of information should take about 20 minutes. After that, we'll have a question and answer period that'll last about 10 minutes, so we'll keep it at roughly 30 minutes. You can type your questions in during the presentation, and I can address them at the end. Or at the end, you can unmute yourself, and then you can ask questions at that time. But at this time, if you are on the call, please mute yourself until we get to that question and answer period. Sometimes there's some back noise that catches, and it makes it hard for people to hear. So we'll go ahead and get started. Girl-led, what does it mean? Now, I know that the people that I know on this call are very familiar with this term, and I'm guessing if you're taking the time to be here, you probably are too. But girl-led is an approach that we use that empowers and encourages our girls to build on responsibility as they design what the Girl Scout program looks for them. So it's not that we just say, here, everything's yours, figure it out, but we give them progressive information or progressive opportunities that'll build to enable them to be girl-led. As the girls gain experience and move from grade level to grade level, the goal is for them to become more responsible for making the decisions within your Girl Scout troop. I personally think one of the biggest jobs of being a leader is to help the girls decide for themselves what they want to do in their troop, because that can be a challenge for them, especially when you say the world's your limit. So giving girls the empowerment to make decisions will probably be the greatest gift that you can make for your troop or give to your troop. And that is your Girl Scout leadership experience. And it's funny because I say Girl Scout leadership experience all the time, but I saw it as the acronym GSLE the other day, and I thought, well, what the heck is that? Well, that is the Girl Scout leadership experience. And it's not only what girls do in that they're discovering, connecting, and taking action. I know we go over that when we do basic leader trainings with everybody, but how they're doing it. So they do it through the process of three things. Activities are girl-led, which gives girls the opportunities to learn by doing in a cooperative learning environment, building progressive experiences relative or so that they're age appropriate. We do that again, girl-led, cooperative learning, and learning by doing. The Girl Scout leadership experience focuses on outcomes that range from developing a strong sense of self to feeling empowered to make a difference in the world. And we do that through our badges, through the patches, through the journey programs, but also just through conversations in your troop where girls are making decisions and then they're connecting to their community to take action on the things that they want to do. And in doing that, they're creating a strong sense of self. They're getting positive values instilled within them. They become more challenge-seeking, which is really fun to watch. They develop healthy relationships with one another and with the people all throughout their life. and they become community problem solvers. My Girl Scout troop did a lot of community service type activities. Um, so Girl Scout girl, actually that should be led, not lead, at all levels. With Daisy's, girl led can mean, because when I'm doing a basic leader training, a lot of times they're with Daisy troops, because Daisy troops are where a lot of people are getting started. And the first question is, well, how can girls lead? They're 5 and they're 6. But there are a lot of ways to develop leadership skills, and it's not always through making all of the decisions, and that's where we start with Daisies. You can do this through repeating activities that girls say they really enjoyed. So you did something, they say, oh my gosh, we really like that, so you let them choose to do it again. Listen to their ideas on how to make activities more fun. I don't know how many times I've heard from my girls, well, yeah, that was okay, but it would have been better if. So that's a building opportunity. Let's do the better if part of it. And now the girl has led that experience. Girls give the opportunity to ask questions or predict what is going to happen next. And you see that in the pedal books. If you read ahead of time what it is that you're going to be trying to convey to the girls so that they earn that badge, it gives you the opportunity to give them the option to predict during the story so that they can see what's going to happen next. And think of ways to lay the foundation for the girls to understand that they'll be able to contribute their opinions and ideas, their thoughts, and that is what will guide the activity of the troop. So allow girls to take on responsibilities that are short tasks and easy enough to accomplish, because, well, daisies have a 15-minute span of attention. So you want to work within that and do your activities in accordance to that time understanding. Identify new experience with the ones that they already know. So those are some ways that leading can be done with daisies. So, and then a lot of times I'll get this. Okay, sure, that sounds like a great idea, but what can they actually do? What are the specifics? If you want to look at your troop, you can say, let the girls be the person to lead everyone in saying the promise and the law. So pass out supplies. The girl can pass out the supplies, later collect the supplies. Girls can take attendance. They know who's in their troop. They can go through and they can take attendance and then put the paper down or give the paper to the leader to double check. Absolutely, they can vote on activities. So maybe giving them all of the choices isn't a great idea, because it's going to be hard for them at that age to narrow it down. But to narrow it down to 3 choices, and then to let the girls as a troop figure out which of those things they're going to do next. Decide how to spend their troop money with, of course, guidance, because you'll probably end up eating, I don't know, cotton candy every troop meeting if they had the total choice. But let them have some input on how they're going to spend their money, and then help them to manage that. But they can do something as simple as suggest snack ideas, or they can be the person to walk around and collect dues for the troop. So there are a lot of things they can do. So to show an example, a specific example, I thought one of the things that we did as a troop was to plan a camping trip. And I know daisies aren't going to think, oh my gosh, we have to bring our tent, but they're probably going to be more focused on what stuffed animals they're going to pack. And so that's where our guidance comes into it. And daisies are capable of choosing from a small set of options of places to go camping. So maybe you give them opportunities for, this is what this campground has to offer, this is what this campground has to offer, and they can figure out where it is they would best like to experience. They can choose the menu items for the meals on a camping trip. That's a pretty easy one. Daisies can set up the inside of their tents or cabins by choosing their spot or setting up their camp gear. So that's something that daisies definitely could do. They could honestly even manage some of those pop-up tents that are out there now, with some assistance from their troop leaders. Daisies can help with fire by collecting wood and twigs and getting those ready for the camp leader to use. So there are a lot of options for daisies when you're doing girl-led. It's really as simple as guiding them through making that choice process, or even maybe putting together a caper chart so they can follow that and have that in place for each troop meeting. With brownies, girl-led means, yeah, I spelled it right that time, Brownies have been in Girl Scouts now for probably 2 years, although you get a lot of brownies who come in for the first time in second grade. But they have a strong understanding of what to expect, and they've begun to develop an understanding of how they can lead others through the classroom, through the Girl Scout troop, maybe even in your family, like my daughter. But brownies can take on more responsibility. So they're able to brainstorm lists of possibilities for the year. They can even create the choices instead of just following the choices that you've given to them. They can open and close ceremonies. My girls started to do flag ceremonies for our council at that time. They learned it. They were even lent out. The council would call us every once in a while and ask if we could go to one of the different things in our community, not run by Girl Scouts, because they wanted to have a Girl Scout troop to start the meeting with a flag ceremony. They can select the crafts or the field trips for their journeys. There are a lot of little pieces. So they can start making the decisions on this is what we want to do, this is what we'd like to see by reading the journeys and choosing themselves. All the girls learn from plans that don't go the okay, I'm not sure exactly, I didn't write that very well, but one of the things that definitely at this age they can start to do is learn from plans that don't go the way they expected. So you certainly want to make sure everybody stays safe in that, but it's a very big growth experience for people when things don't go exactly the way they want them, because then they can look at, oh, what could we do differently next time? Or how was it still a good event? What was still good about it? And what can we build on? And then kind of what we talked about before earlier, they can go back and maybe do it again. And this time do it with the change that they would like to see to create it, to make it more like what they wanted. What is that? Make lemonade out of lemons. So what can brownies do? Oh, I love this picture. This is one of the Girl Scout troops that were at my school. They were 3 years younger because they're my son's age, and every one of those tiny little brownies is now a high school senior, and they are still in Girl Scouts. So they are one of our older troops. That is Lisa Haas, who is leading them, and one of them even graduated early last year as a junior. So that kind of goes to show the strength of girls leading and girls taking on their future. But back to what we're talking about. What can brownies do? They can be given options for a field trip that relates to their journey or badge. So let them choose the one that they prefer. Don't just give it to them at this point. They really should be making that decision. But again, giving them too much might be, especially the second graders. I think the third graders could probably start to narrow it down themselves. But propose maybe 5 badges instead of, hey, look at the book and pick a badge. Maybe bring 5 badges in after you have a good idea of what it is the girls are wanting to do. And then let the girls brainstorm the things that they want to do to earn that badge. Then the girls can vote on which badge to earn first and how they'll go about doing that. Ask them what things they care about and how they can help. Because community service is something that I think is very key to the heart of Girl Scouts, or it was to our troop. And at first we were doing things that we, Stacy, my co-leader, and I wanted to do, but we found that when we started letting the girls actually choose what it is they were going to go out in the community to do, nobody grumbled anymore. Everybody was for it. They usually wanted to do something in the cold, but that was their choice. So we did a lot of things like collecting food out in the cold, rolling one of those big giant, I don't remember what they're called, but wagons behind us. So again, let's show some examples. And that is kind of, actually, I kind of forgot that I wrote that out. But helping the local food bank, that's an example of something that brownies are starting to be very capable of doing. They can draft up a list of questions because they're going to want to call their local food bank. They want to get information about what they can do when they're there, and then make a choice. I know here in our local food bank, you can maybe be sorting food, or you can be collecting food, or you can be in a line that delivers the food to the people as they drive through. So let them decide, how would they like to help? What would be the most fun? And then maybe do a food drive at their school, or they can do it in their neighborhoods, or find some way that they can put that into action. So that's something that our brownies could, like a specific example of something our brownies could do. Junior girls are getting older. And honestly, by the time we got into our junior year, our troop, the girls were doing most everything. They were leading like we started the year, we did a Venn diagram, the girls gave their ideas, and then we put them up on the diagram so they could see where their ideas were overlapping. And that made it a little easier for them to see how their ideas could be connected instead of it just being, this is my idea and your idea isn't my idea, but this is how our ideas could maybe come together and how we could do a piece of what you're talking about and a piece of what I'm talking about. This is also the time that the Bronze Award comes into place. So there are a lot of little pieces that you're doing for that Bronze Award. And what we found was the girls were able to break it up. So they led the different badges and they did it in smaller groups of 3. And then they would get together, they would work on it together, and they would present it to us as a troop and work us through earning that badge. So everything at this point could be girl-led in terms of how your meetings are run. Of course, they're still going to need some assistance with organization, money management, but they should be able to lead their meetings with minimal assistance, and they're learning by doing now. It's not as much learning by waiting for us to help them get it in place. So girls can definitely engage in cooperative learning at this point at 100%. So, and it is, it's time for them to take over with our guidance still being there. So what can they do? Well, this is, the pictures on the side of this are my troop and actually another troop in Peoria. We merged together, and that's just a small showing of the girls that we had there. But they took on Camp Piers, and they did what they called Camp Pretty Potty. Girls can do all of the things that they have built on from their Daisy and Brownie levels. So at the junior level, they have all of that knowledge coming into it. And they can share their knowledge and skills with their peers, like we were talking about in the last screen. So as they get information, they can share it with their troop at this point. And the Bronze Award is a great place for them to begin leading. One of the things that our girls did was they had to solicit the supplies that they needed. They scraped down all the bathrooms or the outhouses at Camp Piers. You can see them doing it in the top. And then they painted everything. That we had a bunch of parents who came out and helped us. We camped overnight, and the girls planned all of it. They planned our food. They called around to local stores to get donations. We really used none of our troop money because they got out there and they made the phone calls with our assistants, and then we helped them gather up all of the parts that they needed. And we showed up at camp and we spent 2 days, and it was actually fun. There were a lot of parents who weren't quite sure how that would turn out, but we had a great time doing it, and it was all led by our girls. So show us some examples. For the examples for juniors, aside from what I just told you about, let's look closer at what they could do. So they could plan community service. They have a strong understanding of the world around them, what they want to do to change that world at this place, they should know 100%. They can lead flag ceremonies like I talked about. At this point, by the time we were juniors, all we were doing was driving them to the events, and they did the flag ceremony. I know that that's not something that our troops are still always doing flag ceremonies, but it does seem to be sometimes there's a little scramble for us to here are the directions. But these girls at the junior level, as long as they've been practicing it, they should be able to just show up and take care of everything that's needed and present in that room. Juniors are very capable of that at this point. They can do any type of community service they come up with, researching it, planning it, and executing it. There are a lot of opportunities in the community. Our girls were out there doing quite a few of them, and I know that there are a lot of girls in my area here, a lot of the troops that are out there doing it well past what we are creating within the council or within the service unit. And these girls can do it. They're old enough now and they're able to put it together. A lot of our focus tends to be K through 3rd, brownies, daisies, and and juniors. So cadets, seniors, and ambassadors, at this point, they should be able to do all of it. And it is a challenge to keep our older girls in Girl Scouts. A lot of times what I'll hear and what we hear within the council is that they're getting into new activities at their school. They're getting into sports. Girl Scouts is for little girls. I remember my own daughter saying that, well, it's not cool to be a Girl Scout anymore. And we worked past it, but our troop dwindled down. That's the same troop that was Brownies in that picture. And you can see their troop is starting to get a little smaller. And that is the group that ended up going all through high school, and they're seniors now. So they went from about 12 to, there were 6, there's one missing. But I couldn't disagree more with the parents who say, well, there's so many different opportunities. When we got into junior high, what we did for our troop and what Lisa Haas did with these girls and what the other high school troops that I know and junior high troops that I know that have been successful is you start to meet based on the girls' availability. You still do need to meet at your own availability, what the leaders are able to do, but the girls are going in a lot of different directions, and a lot of them still are very interested in Girl Scouts. So finding a way to meet when they are available. Let them plan the meetings, let them start the meetings, let them lead the meetings, let them close the meetings. And it doesn't have to look traditional. It doesn't have to look like that every other week for an hour and a half type of situation. I know this particular troop, they did a lot of their meetings on weekends, and they built those little library boxes that look like kind of like bird houses, but you put books into them. And they spent most of their meeting time their sophomore year doing that on Saturdays. And that's how they ran their meetings. The girls were available. They kept going. They earned badges more at their own level. You can kind of see Alexis has quite a few badges. Lily has a few less badges, but that's because at this point they were earning their badges based on what they were interested in and not as much in what the group as a whole was interested in. Some of the girls were doing different things, but they were still able to keep them all together. What can older girls do? Well, honestly, the answer to that is they can do whatever they put their mind to. But many of our older troops are most successful when the girls are leading the troop. And this often means a shift in the way the troop's meeting, like I mentioned. Consider, like, have the girls decided what, when, or how now? This might mean brainstorming how the meetings happen. Maybe it's just once a week on a weekend, maybe every other month. I think one of our troops meets once a quarter, and the girls are working on their badge work individually, and a couple of them are working on gold. But there really is no wrong way to do Girl Scouts as long as the girls are leading it. And at this level, they can pretty much lead 100%. So then if they're doing it all, if they're putting everything together, what do troop adults do? Well, we do the pre-planning. We can kind of look into it. When the girls are planning a project or an activity, the adults may need to think through tasks that they will need to have happen. Maybe they forgot one little piece, and you can kind of give them your list and let them look at it. The readiness level for the girls for those tasks. As we talked about, daisies are going to be a lot different than our seniors in high school. Could the task be broken down into smaller steps to help the girls be more successful? Or if you have a troop, maybe breaking it down into smaller steps gives everybody a hands-on piece of it. And what are the tasks that are essential to make sure that everybody's safe? Because that's the other thing. If the girls are stepping in and they're taking leadership, we still need to make sure that they're considering all of the different things that maybe their life hasn't given them the experience of being wary of. So we want to make sure that they're safe. I think the hardest part to learn for all of us, even if we're not leading a troop, is that imperfect is perfect enough. So as we mentioned earlier, do nothing for the girls that the girls cannot do for themselves, even if it takes a little longer. Activities that are girl-led won't always be perfect, but that is not what the goal is here. Those somewhat imperfect experiences will leave a much greater impact when the girls can say, I did that. So let them do it. Let them make a mistake. Let them look a little wonky maybe. And how do I know if I'm doing a girl-led troop the right way? You'll know that every girl's opinion, or you know that every girl's opinion counts, and you can actively encourage them to speak up and share their ideas. When you're showing the respect for what girls say and the value of their opinions, regardless of their age, you actively encourage girls to follow the Girl Scout law, which includes the statement, be a sister to every Girl Scout. I don't know how many times that comes up, even in our office amongst us. The girls suggest how they want to spend their time in Girl Scouting and where they want to take trips, and your response to something along the lines sounds like, how can we make that happen? Or how can I help? Girls are not afraid to disagree with your suggestions. If they're willing to speak up, then you know you're doing girl-led right. And your first reaction to an outrageous suggestion, such as a year off from school to a cruise around the world, is not necessarily that's impossible, but why are you interested in doing that? Figure out what the thought is behind that statement and see how you can make that more realistic to happening. If you're not comfortable with an activity suggested by a girl, maybe you'd rather not go snow tubing. That's fine. You can help them find the person who can make that idea a reality. Check your safety-wise, check your activity. You know what? Give the girls the safety-wise activity checkpoints and let them look through it when they've discovered something that they're interested in doing. But you can help them evaluate the value of their experiences, and that's how you know that you're encouraging girl-led. What did you learn? What was the best part of today? How did this experience affect you? What might you do differently? So you share your ideas with the girls in the group, but you don't expect or need them to jump up and down with excitement each time, because it's not about how you feel about it, it's about how they feel about it. If girls are clearly comfortable saying what they like and don't like about your ideas when you offer them as possibility rather than you have to do this. And you know that you're running a girl-led troop if girls know that they can come to you for help whenever they decide that they need it, and that you're always ready to offer support and encouragement. I think a good rule of thumb is to give the girls as much responsibility as you think that they can handle, and then give them just a little bit more of that. So what kind of tools might help with girls controlling the girl-led experience? Well, this is a Venn diagram. That's one of the things that my girls loved. We did it at the beginning of every year in our second troop meeting. They would come with their ideas. We would put them up on our Venn diagram, and then we'd figure out how we could get to that middle chart. But caper charts, that's something that especially younger girls, they can depend on that. They know what the rotation of responsibility is, and they'll be able to get that experience for every little piece without worrying too much about, oh no, I'm never going to get to do that. So they can control themselves by knowing what's going to come next. But most of all, that bottom one is important, providing them choice. Choice is key. Without that, they're probably not going to be able to make too many decisions. And another tool that I think is very important is establishing structure. And that's what we talk in classrooms, we talk about that, even in your own home. Establishing structure makes it a lot easier for us to follow, even in your own workplace. It's important to understand what to expect next. So Girl Scouts and troop parents, they thrive on structure and routine. Structure improves the ability to self-regulate, and that's what we want the girls to be able to do. They like knowing that when they attend their Girl Scout meeting, they're open, like they'll open with maybe the Girl Scout promise. That's what my girls did, so that's why I put it in there. Snacks will be eaten, they're going to do an activity, and they're going to close with a friendship circle, which should have an E on it. So start your troop off with a basic routine, and then take that one step further with another troop tradition, which is troop government. You could also say code of conduct. It really depends on what it is that you want to put in place. But it's just a simple and structured way of managing group decisions and discussions as the girls begin to take lead in helping plan their activities. There are some things that you've heard of before probably that are traditional, like the daisy circle or the brownie ring, where everybody sits around and you might have a way that you make decisions or the way that you vote. We used to break the troops up using those troop crests. I don't know how many of you have seen them in the stores, but we grew to be a fairly large troop for a little while, and it became more difficult to make decisions. So we split the troop up randomly. Everybody had a different, well, there were two different crests, And that made it easier for us to break out and then make decisions and then come back and talk to one another without creating some little cliques or those types of things where girls got to be together with their besties and try to power through everybody else. But each of them establishes an orderly way for adults to guide girls as they express opinions, share ideas, and learn and work together. And then the girls, as they're going from Daisy to Brownie to Junior, that is going to be what they're used to. They're going to be used to that structure, and they're going to be able to go forward with it as they begin to take leadership of the troop. So we've covered a lot of information. I think I actually went over your time limit. I apologize. But basically, we're coming back to Girl Scout leadership experience. The girls should be discovering, connecting, and taking action with our assistance. And they're going to do that through girl-led cooperative learning and learning by doing. And those are the keys to it. Girl-led troops enable our Girl Scouts to go from being led to being leaders. So let's watch them take aim on their futures. And forgive me for the cheesy picture that goes along with it, but I just loved that. So that is the end of that portion of what we were talking about. So now what I'm going to do is open it up to questions. I saw a couple people made some comments while we were talking, but let's see if I have any questions in here. Oh, thank you for the great feedback, you guys. And I'm so glad. I'm glad that you have a million ideas running through your head right now, Kim. If you ever want to talk more about it, just let me know. I'd be happy to help out with that. But let's see, will this recording be sent to all leaders or only those that are attended? What we're going to do is we've been recording this. We will put it on our website. If you go to our website and you click a volunteer, and then under that link is another one that says volunteer resources. If you click on volunteer resources, you're going to find it at the very bottom tab that says leader chat, and they will put that on our website. Oh, I see that Brittany answered that. Okay, I don't know who this is, but QI department. My brownies and juniors are looking for a troop to do a short pen pal activity with. Is there interest? Please send me an email. Oh, that's awesome. I'm sure anybody that's on here that might want to write that down and get a hold of her, that would be wonderful. Another thing that you might consider doing is going on your service unit Facebook page, and you could post something there and see if somebody doesn't respond to you. If not, if you want to get in touch with me later, I'm sure I could find somebody in my area that would be interested in being pen pals with you. And Tony wants to know if I can make her the presenter. And I see Kim has already answered QD. Join the WAGs. Do you guys have any questions for me? Well, if nobody has any questions, we are a little over our 30-minute mark. And I thank you all for being here today, and we'll go ahead and close. But I would be happy to speak to any of you further about this. It's kind of having been a troop leader through, we took our girls through about 10th grade, and then a few of them did their own thing. But it is kind of one of my little things. I like to make sure girls stay if they're interested in staying. So have a great evening, and let us know if you do come up with any questions.